¿Qué onda? This is Shista Garcilaso. Aztlan Weekly is a volunteer-based community news outlet. Our work is brought to you by the contributions of El Partido Nacional de la Raza Unida, PNLRU, also known as La Raza Unida Party. If you're interested in learning more about the party or want to join, visit www.razaunidaparty.org. Our show is also brought to you by Maíz Poppin' Press, a raza-based publisher producing cultura para la raza. For more info, visit their webpage, www.maizpoppin.com, or find them on social media by searching at Maíz Poppin' Press, and keep a lookout for their book, Once Upon a Time in Occupied Aztlan by El Indio, copyright 1985. Lastly, Aztlan Weekly is made possible by you, the listener. If interested in offering further contributions or support, visit www.aztlanweekly.com. And now, on with the show.
We interrupt this program for a special news bulletin.
There is a signal broadcast every second of every day. Look around the environment we live in. Carbon dioxide, fluorocarbons, and methane have increased. We are resourced to them. They want benign indifference. They want us drugged. We could be pets. We could be food. But all we really are is livestock. Our impulses are being redirected. We are living in an artificially induced state of consciousness that resembles sleep. The poor and the underclass are growing. Racial justice and human rights are non-existent. They have created a repressive society, and we are their unwitting accomplices. Their intention to rule rests with the annihilation of consciousness. We have been lulled into a trance. They have made us indifferent to ourselves, to others. We are focused only on our own gain. Please understand, they are safe as long as they are not discovered. That is their primary method of survival. Keep us asleep, keep us selfish, keep us sedated.
¿Qué hubo, raza? Yo soy Ernesto Ayala.
¿Qué hubo, raza? Yo soy Shista Garcilaso.
¿Qué hubo, raza? Yo soy Robert Ramirez.
And this is Aztlan Weekly.
We begin with news brought to us by our camarada Andrea Martinez desde Crazy Town, Nuevo Mexicaslan. She reports a developing story out of southern New Mexico. The federal government has begun legal proceedings to acquire a 7-acre parcel of New Mexico state trust land near the Santa Teresa port of entry, west of El Paso, using eminent domain. According to reports, the land would be used for border infrastructure, including steel bollard fencing, access roads, surveillance technology, and related security support systems. The move comes after New Mexico reportedly declined an earlier offer of approximately $800,000 for the property. Under eminent domain law, the federal government can take private or state-owned land for a public purpose, but compensation must be paid, and the process goes through the courts. That means that the land is not simply being taken overnight, but entered into a legal condemnation process. Santa Teresa is one of the most important trade and transportation corridors on the U.S.-Mexico border, making the area strategically valuable for both commerce and border enforcement. The action is expected to spark political debate across New Mexico. Supporters say stronger border infrastructure is necessary. Opponents argue it overrides state authority and raises concerns over land sovereignty and public trust assets. Legal challenges could still delay the project, especially over land value, and environmental concerns or whether the seizure is justified. At this hour, no final construction timeline has been confirmed. This case may become one of the most closely watched border land disputes in New Mexico this year.
And news Pacas, Pocoima, Califaslan. A single-engine Cessna crashed into an O'Reilly Auto Parts parking lot in Pacoima, LA on Monday, April 20th, 2026, landing in an upside-down position. The 70-year-old pilot was rescued by witnesses and Good Samaritans before being transported to a local hospital in critical condition. Prior to the crash, the aircraft snapped a high-voltage power pole, forcing the evacuation of surrounding businesses and residences. The incident took place near Whitman Airport, and federal authorities are investigating the cause. Video footage captured the rescue effort in the immediate aftermath of the crash. For more, read the article at ktla.com.
Las Vegas, Nevada slan. Good news for Las Vegans. For the second consecutive year, Billboard has named Las Vegas Allegiant Stadium the highest grossing stadium in the US and second highest worldwide. Opened in 2020, the $1.9 billion venue serves as the home for the NFL's Las Vegas Raiders and UNLV Rebels football team. Known for its unique Death Star style design, the facility includes a massive retractable field tray and a translucent roof. It has established itself as a premier venue hosting Super Bowl 58 and scheduled for upcoming events, including WrestleMania. The stadium significantly impacts the local economy, generating approximately $620 million annually and supporting numerous jobs in Southern Nevada. Read the full story at 8newsnow.com.
We'll be right back after a word from our contributors.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
I'm Scott Russell Duncan, a Chicano writer, editor, and Aztlan Weekly reporter with the widest name. Aztlan Weekly is produced in association with Maiz Poppin' Press, where we publish radical imagination and resistance writing that pops. Visit maizpoppin.com. We're also in association with the Palabras del Pueblo Writing Workshop, an affordable and accessible online workshop that centers La Raza and strengthens our own literary institutions. Writing that speaks to our community first and loudest. See more at palabrasdelpueblo.com.
What's up, familia? If you're looking for a space that celebrates powerful storytelling, community, and culture, the Brown Book Club is where you need to be. Since 2020, we've been building a community centered on Latina, Latino, Chicana, Chicano, and indigenous voices, uplifting stories that reflect who we are, where we come from, and where we're going. We don't just read these books, we connect with the authors behind them. Through the Brown Book Club podcast, we've had real conversations with incredible writers, diving deeper into their stories, their process, and their lived experiences. This is more than a book club. It's community, it's culture, it's conversation. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Just search the Brown Book Club and tap in. And news desde El Paso, Texas. Local farm tours in El Paso are being highlighted as a way for residents to access affordable organic food options amidst rising grocery prices. The U.S. Department of Agriculture has predicted a 3% increase in overall food costs for the year, with specific items like beef already surging over 15% from 2025 levels. By supporting local farms, consumers can bypass traditional distribution infrastructure, which often involves meals traveling an average of 1,500 miles to reach the plate. These local systems offer more energy-efficient production and reduced packaging, contributing to a lower carbon footprint for the community. Ultimately, these initiatives encourage residents to invest in their local economy while securing fresher, chemical-free food at more stable prices. Read the full story at kfoxtv.com.
Y en noticias desde Salt Lake City, Utah, the U.S. Department of Agriculture is relocating the Forest Service headquarters from Washington, D.C. to Salt Lake City, Utah to bring leadership closer to the western lands they manage. This initiative aligns with a common sense management strategy focused on increasing efficiency, reducing administrative costs, and enhancing responsiveness to local communities. The move is designed to improve the agency's ability to address critical issues such as wildfire prevention and sustainable timber harvesting through direct regional engagement. Ultimately, the shift prioritizes a decentralized approach to federal land management. Read the full press release at the USDA website.
Spensa, damas y caballeros, we seem to be experiencing some technical difficulties. I don't know, just put it in a tape.
Spensa, damas, caballeros, we seem to be experiencing some technical difficulties.
Please stand by.
I can see
Thanks for hanging in there, listeners. Now back to Aslan Weekly.
That firme rola we just heard was called Chin Up by Beyond California or Beyond Califas. For more of their music, search Beyond California on YouTube, Spotify, etc.
We interrupt this program for a special news bulletin.
What's up? My name is Mark,
I'm Andrew.
and we're two members of band Beyond California from Fresno, California.
Our third member, Ethan, couldn't make it today, but he's an important member of ours as well.
Very important member of our band as well.
What do you do, Mark?
I am the vocalist slash guitarist slash bassist.
Oh, nice. And I'm the drummer. And Ethan, who we just talked about, is the guitarist,
Vocalist slash bassist.
and yes, sound engineer,
Sound engineer, yes.
father.
Father, moral authority figure.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Brings it together.
Good guy, yeah.
Where are we from, Mark?
We're from Fresno, California. You know, we're a grunge punk rock band, and the song you guys were listening to is called Chin Up. Is a song I wrote before I joined the band, actually. And
How did we start, although it's
seven years ago.
So
So that was one of our first ones, off our first album, A Cry for Help. And so 11 is a mixture of me and Ethan writing music together and collaborating. And I gotta say, it turned out a lot better with this guy on drums and Ethan on the bass playing that song. Sounded a lot better in reality than it did in my head when I wrote it. And that song's just basically about things you experience when you're around 25 and start realizing you're going to die soon, and kind of just trying to enjoy every day while it's there. You know, keep your chin up. It's going to be hard. Staring at the sun is hard. You know, you can go blind doing that, but you know, you can go blind anyway. You know, just enjoy every second of every day because it's better than being underground.
yeah, and 7 years ago we did that song. So
Yeah.
we're still 7 years still.
We've grown so much.
Yeah,
So
such a
much.
done.
Yeah.
Tell them what we got doing going. Do you have anything coming up or?
Yeah, you know, we're writing our third album right now. We have 2 out on like Spotify and whatnot. But we're writing third one, best one yet. We've really fallen into the groove of who we are as musicians, and it's turning out really good.
Yeah, and I feel like, you know, hopefully in the near future that should be coming out. You know,
Yeah,
give it a good time. So
we're taking our time with it. We wanted, but that's who we are. And then, you know, you can find us on like Spotify, YouTube. We got some videos on YouTube, Amazon Music. You know, we're on all that. Instagram,
streaming.
Facebook. Look up Beyond California. We are not the little kid version. There's a little kids with also the same name, Beyond California. They're all right.
They're cool.
They got a lot of room to grow. But
Maybe they need a rebrand.
yeah, you know, we asked them. They sent us a cease and desist order. They said,
They actually did it, but
yeah, you know, we're in a lawsuit battle with them at the moment.
not currently. But
Yeah. That's who we are, man. You know, I hope you like the song, you know.
yeah, enjoy the song. This is Jeanette.
According to the Native Peoples Network across the West, wild mustangs have long been a part of the land, but today, many live between shrinking habitat and federal holding facilities. A project in Colorado known as the Wild Horse Refuge near Steamboat Springs is working to change that. Spanning tens of thousands of acres, the refuge aims to provide space where wild horses can roam more naturally rather than remain in long-term holding. Most of these horses come from roundups managed by the BLM, which oversees wild horse populations in public lands. According to federal data, over 60,000 wild horses and burros are currently in off-range holding facilities, highlighting the scale of the challenge. This refuge is still developing, but it reflects a broader shift from short-term management to long-term habitat and care. For more on this story, find the Native Peoples Network on Instagram and Facebook by searching Native Peoples Network.
And back to Califaslan, skeletal remains were discovered at a UC Berkeley construction site. They have been identified by the Alameda County Coroner's Office as historical Native American remains. The university is coordinating with the California Native American Heritage Commission to respectfully handle the remains following the state-mandated procedures and working with a designated most likely descendant. This incident occurs alongside heightened scrutiny regarding the university's progress in repatriating a large collection of indigenous ancestral remains and artifacts. The discovery and subsequent handling of the site are being handled in accordance with California law. For more on this story, go to ktvu.com.
And now noticias desde Arizona, Aslan. Officials are warning of a surge in cyclorphine, a synthetic opioid reported to be up to 10 times more potent than fentanyl, which has appeared in toxicology reports across multiple states. Because of its extreme potency, even microscopic doses can be fatal and may require multiple doses of Narcan to reverse. The substance is frequently mixed into other illicit drugs, increasing the risk of accidental, often fatal overdoses. Unlike fentanyl, cyclorphine is not detected by standard test strips, further complicating efforts to identify and avoid the substance. The drug, which emerged in early 2024, has rapidly spread from Europe into North America. Read the story at abc15.com.
And back to Salt Lake City, Utahslan. The Salt Lake City Council is considering an ordinance to strictly regulate urban camping and establish clearer guidelines for removing homeless encampments, aiming to balance public safety with support for the unsheltered. The proposal would prohibit camping in specific high-traffic areas and increase authority to clear tents blocking public access. Critics argue the measure criminalizes homelessness without providing adequate alternative shelter or housing. The council is currently weighing public feedback on the proposal alongside social service initiatives. For more on this story, visit the Salt Lake City Tribune webpage at sltrib.com.
The New Mexico Reforestation Center is breaking ground in Las Vegas to scale up production of climate-adapted tree seedlings from 300,000 to 5 million annually. This collaborative initiative between state universities and the Forestry Division aims to address the massive demand for reforestation following catastrophic wildfires. These seedlings are specifically sourced from warmer southern regions to ensure survival in a changing, hotter climate. Beyond ecological restoration, the project is expected to create local jobs and stimulate economic growth within the forestry sector. The ultimate goal is to return vast, fire-scarred landscapes to healthy, thriving forests. For more, read the full story at the Albuquerque Journal website, abqjournal.com.
And now, eventos en Aztlán.
Hi, I'm Gabe Rivas Gomez, and I wrote Level Up. Level Up is the story of a trans tween named Desi who goes on an adventure in a virtual world to save her dying dog. In going on this adventure, learns that she needs to find a way to survive both in the virtual and in the real world. And it felt important to me to write this story with this character being the focus because so much of what we are seeing in the media today is dehumanizing to gay, lesbian, trans, queer people. And when moments like this throughout history, I think it's really vitally important that we find ways to tell stories that rehumanize the people that are being dehumanized. My hope for this play is that as young people come to see it, that they feel seen, that they see a piece of themselves on stage. Come see Level Up at the LATC. Get your tickets, bring your families, bring your kids, bring your older people.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Yo soy Felicia con Mujeres de Maíz y yo soy la directora y una de las cofundadoras de la organización. Es una organización de la comunidad del este de Los Ángeles de puras mujeres de color de diferentes edades y comunidades y lo que apreciamos es diferentes cosas como arte y activismo y también bienestar. Queremos invitarles a la Cultura Cura Feria de Bienestar que va a ser el 9 de mayo, un sábado de 10 a 4. Es todo gratis y gratuito. Vamos a tener diferentes sesiones de bienestar, recursos, información, presentaciones y pláticas. Todo en español y todo para nuestra comunidad. Vénganse. Muchas gracias. Cualquier información se puede dar en mujeresdemaíz.com y está patrocinado por Take Action LA. Muchas gracias. Nos vemos.
Un evento en Houston, Tejaslan, Rubato Elegy, the Nigerian-Filipino musical duo blending classical textures with modern soul, and Las Perras Cafe announce, mark your calendars, our debut album is dropping, and we're throwing a party to celebrate. Join us April 25th at 8:30 p.m. at Las Perras Cafe for a night of live music, food, drinks, tarot readings by Mystical Market Co., and snazzy vibes. We can't wait to see you there. RSVP by going to Instagram and searching Rubato_elegy. Las Perras Cafe is a Latina-owned day-to-night specialty cafe and bar rooted in liberation, located at 3401 Harrisburg Boulevard, Houston, Texas. And an event in San Jose, Califaslan, La Raíz magazine announces, join us for our youth poetry event at the San Jose Floricanto Poetry and Art Festival. That's the Jóvenes Poetry Showcase, Saturday, April 25th, 2026, 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. at the Escuela Popular, 149 North White Road, San Jose, California. This event showcases the work of youth poets ages 5 to 18 years of age with open mic for additional students and up to age 25. Sign up at the event. We will also have music by Entre Zurcos and food. This will be followed by a feature event with San Jose poets and poets from as far as Oakland, San Francisco, Fresno, San Diego, and Texas, 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Thank you, Cal Arts Council, for supporting our youth workshops, poetry ambassadors, and organization of this event. Thank you, Escuela Popular, for partnering to provide space and support on our campus. For more info, visit the La Raíz magazine website at www.laraizmagazine.com.
Coming out of El Paso, Texas, the Alamito Stream Center invites you to Sacred Paws, Dogs and Aztec Myth and Meaning, presented by Ruby Montana of UTEP Chicana Chicano Studies, followed by a workshop on Nahuatl animal names, meanings by David Romo. Tuesday, April 28th, 6 p.m., the Alamito Stream Center, 508 South Virginia Street, El Paso, Texas.
Y un evento en San Diego, Califaslan, Aztlán Libre announces save the date, May 9th. It's our 7th annual Chicana art exhibition and poetry, and we're ready to celebrate. This effort began in 2012 at The Spot, located on Main Street in Barrio Logan. The second flyer is the original flyer we used to come together and honor Chicana Arte. Join us as we come together to celebrate our Madrecitas and continue to uplift Chicana Arte. When? May 9th, 2 to 8 p.m. Where? Aztlán Libre Galería Mestizaje, 2076 Logan Ave, San Diego, Califas, 92113. For more info, visit their Instagram page by searching Aztlán Libre.
Y un evento en Colorado, Aztlán. Celebrate the Day of the Child with the Mexican Cultural Center at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science, Sunday, April 26th. Free general admission for all visitors. The celebration will include special performances, music, and activities for the entire family. Also enjoy Brick Planet, a magical journey made with Lego bricks, free with the museum admission. Special thanks to the Mexican Cultural Center for their partnership. Dia del Niño celebrates all children. Countries around the world have honored kids with a special day for nearly 100 years. The United Nations established the Convention on the Rights of the Child in 1990. This document declares that kids have a right to health, well-being, and happiness, and that they should be protected from physical or emotional harm. More than 190 countries have signed the treaty defending children's rights all over the world. In many parts of the United States, Dia del Niño is observed on April 30th to coincide with Mexico's celebration. Sunday, April 26th, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science.
Y un evento en Denver, Colorado, the Denver University Native Student Alliance announces, join us May 3rd for the New Beginnings Powwow, a day full of dance, culture, and community. Bring your people and come celebrate with us. The New Beginnings Powwow started almost 15 years ago, stemming from our Native American Student Alliance Board. Our powwow's mission is to bring community healing, preserve culture in an urban setting, and celebrate Indigenous expression and identity. This comes in the form of dancing, singing, contest ceremonies, in which all has brought our community together, forming a deeper connection to one another and our culture. This powwow brings encouragement, healing, and provides welcoming environment that is an opportunity to learn and practice culture. Our powwow is meant to ensure cultural enrichment and resilience while giving back to the community it was built on. This event will take place Sunday, May 3rd, 2026, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. MDT. Where Campus Green, 2055 East Evans Avenue, University of Denver, Denver, Color Aztlán. For more information, visit their Instagram page, search nsa.du.
We'll be right back after a word from our contributors.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
I'm Scott Russell Duncan, a Chicano writer, editor, and Aztlan Weekly reporter with the widest name. Aztlan Weekly is produced in association with Maiz Poppin' Press, where we publish radical imagination and resistance writing that pops. Visit maizpoppin.com. We're also in association with the Palabras del Pueblo Writing Workshop, an affordable and accessible online workshop that centers La Raza and strengthens our own literary institutions. Writing that speaks to our community first and loudest. See more at palabrasdelpueblo.com.
What's up, familia? If you're looking for a space that celebrates powerful storytelling, community, and culture, the Brown Book Club is where you need to be. Since 2020, we've been building a community centered on Latina, Latino, Chicana, Chicano, and Indigenous voices, uplifting stories that reflect who we are, where we come from, and where we're going. We don't just read these books, we connect with the authors behind them. Through the Brown Book Club podcast, we've had real conversations with incredible writers, diving deeper into their stories, their process, and their lived experiences. This is more than a book club. It's community, it's culture, it's conversation. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Just search the Brown Book Club and tap in.
And now, Aztlan Weekly presents Where in Aztlan is Scott?
We interrupt this program for a special news bulletin.
Tell me where in
Aztlan
is Willie?
Where in Aztlan is
Tell me where in
Aztlan
is Willie?
Where in Aztlan
Is Scott?
I'm Scott Russell Duncan, Chicano writer and editor with the widest name, and this is Where in Aztlan is Scott? And to answer that question today, here is Aurelio Montemayor. So hello, Aurelio, where in Aztlan are we?
We're in San Antonio, Texas, and I was actually reared in Laredo on the border with Mexico. My father was from Mexico. My mother was from a land-grant family way back in the 1700s in Laredo. And I've been a high school English teacher. I've been in education for a long time. I started teaching in '64. And I had aspirations of being a writer all my life, but never thought I could really pull it off to get something published. And a young friend of mine who was doing his undergraduate work, we became friends, and he was very interested in writing, and I had mentioned I had a manuscript, which is autobiographical, but was a dud, I worked on it hard and it didn't seem to float, so I just left it alone. And then he said, let's look at the manuscript, and we did, and he said, let's rework this is publishable. And we worked for 3 years, got it out. The book is called El Curso de la Raza, The Education of Aurelio Manuel Montemayor. And basically, I'm tracking 10 years in my life when I became involved in the Chicano movement and how I saw it in terms of education and liberation. And so this weekend retreat that we developed was a way to bring people together and become conscious of being Chicanos and developing multiple leadership in the movement. And that was the whole idea behind it.
So you were involved in the movement, and you're still going today, like you wrote this book. And so one thing I'd like to ask, because we're actually in a time of a lot of strife and a lot of things have come into our face again. What has kept you going like all these years?
Well, I guess part of it is pride, because I grew up very proud of my multiple roots in Texas and Mexico, and it always puzzled me that they would somehow say our culture was inferior or anything like that. I knew the history of Spanish in many ways, and so I never easily accepted any put down in there. And I didn't experience it until I left Laredo, because Laredo, being bilingual is normal, and Spanish and English are spoken in the home. And so what has kept me going is I love the roots, I love the culture, I love where I come from, and I don't like anybody messing with it. I just don't. And when I started teaching, I realized the kids I was teaching had some kind of an inferior feeling about it and stuff like that. That really bothered me, and that's what. When I got in touch with what was called the Chicano movement, it was a natural for me. It was just something. This has to be done. I didn't grow up being revolutionary. I wasn't used to being in politics, but it drove me into it, and that's kept me going, because one of the very nice, joyful experiences that you're always discovering more and more about your roots. A project that I've been involved with for the last few years here in San Antonio is the Museo del West Side, where we're recording the actual lives of working class families and doing the kind of documentation that is rarely done in any culture, because it's always, there's an elitist group of whatever the group is, and that's the language and the traditions that become frozen. And I see that the beauty of all this is the multiplicity in our culture that is actually doesn't get recorded, but is there. Working class families, the different kinds of languages we use. There's not just one calo, it just varies from neighborhood to neighborhood, and that's very rich. But also the persistence of so many people working hard, knowing that getting screwed and they keep going. You know what I mean? It's just like for one very open, radical, or aggressive individual, you have 100 that are just surviving, but they're there. And not that I wouldn't like to see a lot more revolutionary people, but as you experience that multiplicity in the culture, I think it gives me a lot of life. It gives me a lot of. I like the idea of the recording, the documenting, and as a teacher, I wanted to get into the classrooms. I want teachers to know about all these things and teach about these things, so that you imbue in these children, these students, a very deep value for where they come from. If your dad's a carpenter, whatever it is, honor that, see it, not romanticize it, but see that they work hard. You don't get paid much for your work, but it's valuable and stuff like that. That was like one of the things that is hard to confront, is that we want education, and parents say, get an education so you don't suffer what I went through, as if the education is somehow going to make something better. It's more for economic survival, but it seems to be sometimes like a put down of the home culture. And so dealing with those things that clash with each other is important to me, but it keeps me going.
So I think what you're saying, like education isn't just like something that happens at the university or if it's something, obviously it's something our community needs a lot.
Yeah.
We need a lot of education, but it's also something that can happen outside. We obviously need both, right? But outside the system, what are kind of things that we might need as far as like?
Well, I think that it's multi-pronged because you're right. We need more PhDs, but you don't want to be absorbed by academia because that can be deadened the natural culture of the barrio. And so without romanticizing it, I think there's the education that comes from experience, the working class experience where people learn from doing and surviving. And that's a very important kind of education. But there's also the other kinds of things you need to learn to be able to face up to how racists see your culture. And so that you, with let's say, other language or other abilities can defend at the academic level. That's why this conference is about Chicano studies and it's so important. But it is multi-pronged. I've seen, for example, sometimes friends of mine who become academics in Chicano studies that somehow academia absorbs them. You develop a whole language which is good and stuff like that, but you're saying, oh, Gloria Saldúa and all this other stuff, and that's great, but are you connecting? Is this somehow connecting to the natural education that's coming from working class people and stuff like that? So it's multi-pronged. It has to be on different levels at the same time.
That's something I agree with 100%. We need the connection to the community, and we're very much encouraged to like lead the community. I'm kind of a product of that myself, and I'm trying to reconnect, right? But yeah, losing my train of thought. Sorry, I had something to say. I'm sorry. Anything else you would like to add?
Well, one of the things that I think I wish I had more of was the ability to write. Of all the things I'm thinking about, I've written a lot as part of my profession. Little essays on education and stuff like that. I've written about having met Paulo Freire and that kind of education, liberatory education, but having gotten one book published by a university and stuff, I'm really proud about that. It's just one piece, and I wish I could write 10 different things in different voices, because I don't right now know how to write in the voice of the barrio I grew up in. It would be phony right now if I would, I don't want to be phony about it, but I want to see how do I dig into my history, my experience in different ways, so that different words come out and they're printed. I think that's a challenge.
To me, that's a story too, because that's a struggle that like our community faces. How do we return to that voice? I think that'd be an interesting thing to write about as well.
Yeah, and for it to be authentic, I guess when you're writing, you're thinking, well, sometimes, am I writing for this audience? How do I reveal that I am really barrio? So then I add some barrio words and I say, wait, does that work or not? Is it authentic, or am I incorporating something because I want to sound in a particular way? And that keeps bouncing back and forth. And I keep
this is, I think we're out of time here. This has been, I want to thank Aurelio for speaking with us here. Any closing thoughts that you would like to have?
I feel honored to be interviewed. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be part of this.
I love hearing this. I love everything you said. Thank you for being part of this. And this has been Where in Aztlan is Scott. And now we return to more Aztlan Weekly programming.
Tell me where in
Aztlan,
is Wilby?
where in Aztlan is
Tell me where in
Aztlan,
is Wilby?
where in Aztlan
Is Scott?
Yeah.
Now we return you to our regular scheduled program.
And now Aztlan Weekly presenta Op-Ed with our camarada Yvette.
¿Qué hubo, raza? This is Yvette Xochillot, reporting for Aztlan Weekly, desde el condado de La Naranja in Sur Califas. Bueno, I think we all know that something feels off. Every week, the conversation is constantly changing. We talk about immigration one week, then there's something else. There's a political scandal, drama, then another headline. And I know that it's not that people don't care. It's just that the attention keeps moving. And when attention moves, certain things disappear from the conversation. It doesn't mean they actually stop happening. Let's look at immigration detention, for example. For years, there have been reports of what happens inside those camps of pain and destruction. Not once, not twice, but they happen over and over again. There's allegations, investigations, and people brave enough to speak out. And still, every time that it comes back into the news, it feels like people were hearing it for the first time. Like the system has not been there the whole time. And that's what I mean by historical amnesia. It's not just the forgetting about the past. It's about losing track of what is still happening right now. Lately, I've been seeing people say that everything going on is part of a distraction, that it's all meant to pull away attention from the Epstein case and the people connected to him. And I understand why people feel that way, but I don't think everything's just a distraction. Some of what we are seeing has been developing for years. Policies, enforcement strategies, and the long-term plans didn't just happen overnight. They existed before, whether people were paying attention or not. Multiple things can be true at the same time. And while the conversation shifts, the realities stay exactly the same way that they have always been. Our gente are still in detention. These families are still going through the same system. Nothing about that has paused just because the headlines have changed. And it's not just immigration. I have seen this pattern before, with policing, with labor rights, who gets protection and who doesn't. The people the most affected, as you all know, are the same. The ones that rarely stay at the center of the conversation for too long. That's the part that feels familiar. Not the events themselves, but how quickly they stop being talked about. Like our pain and struggle is just temporary. Pero como decimos en México, ni perdón ni olvido.
And now Aztlan Weekly presenta Humanidad Behind Bars.
So I taught in county today, and I came home, did my ritual of like unwinding, changing, resting, napping, and then I reflect on my day. And I had such a wonderful time with students today. It was so full of life. We talked about social class stratification and social class inequality. At one point I put on Tupac's old interviews. Students were able to identify like which theory he was using, which, the application of material always warms a teacher's heart. Thank you. But one of the highlights was also in our class. Our class is attached to the day room, and you can see in this big window, that there's a group of homies who are not my students engaged in the material, looking like they're debating. They're pointing at the TV. They can obviously hear me. I couldn't hear them, but that warmed my heart because they were engaging in the material and they weren't my students and they didn't have to. And it just was wonderful to see. Thank you for listening. This is Profe Melanie Baru, also known as Chicana Mal, and this is Humanidad Behind Bars.
That was our camarada La Profa Chicana Melanie with the Rising Scholars Network. For more, search Insta for Chicana_Mel. That's Chicana with an X. And for more info about the Rising Scholars Network, visit their website, risingscholarsnetwork.org. And now Aztlan Weekly presents Maestro Speaks con Rafael Avitia.
Yes, we are at war. And it's more than just a war, it's a civil war. That's been going on for some time now here within the United States of America. We are at war. It's a war between not races necessarily, but ideas. White supremacy, for example, and capitalism trying to stay relevant and trying to fool people and gaslight us into believing that that's the way to go. This civil war we're engaged in, it's not new. Like I said, this is something that's been going on, and we could trace this back as far as to 1492 with the coming of, Christopher Columbus and Hernando Cortez in Mexico and places like that, the Pilgrims. But this war, I would say, it's a modern war for a lot of young people who don't know the history that I just referred to. So yeah, we are at war. It's a civil war, and the war. I want everybody to understand this. It's not about race. It's not about race. Donald Trump is a fool, a racist fool, an idiot, if you want to call him that, a clown. But the truth is, he's just the byproduct. I've always said that, and I want people to understand what that means. He's just a result of the ignorance, of the foolishness, and of the outright and intentional division of the people, so that way we could be at each other's necks, arguing over economics, arguing over race. The truth is, people voted him for various reasons. But the truth is, we are at war. We're at war amongst ourselves. It's a civil war, like I said, amongst the people. ICE has now become the official force for the current administration. But then, you got to go back to George W. Bush, who created ICE after 9/11, supposedly to go after terrorists, right? And a lot of our Muslim and Islamic brothers and sisters were wrongfully targeted, wrongfully infiltrated, and destroyed from within. That was with George W. Bush after 9/11. Then you got Barack Obama. He really, used ICE, and not only did he allow George W. Bush to walk free when he probably should have, prosecuted George W. Bush for the war crimes, he let him walk free. That's your liberal mind state, right? We thought we got a black man in the office. He's a liberal or left wing or whatever. He sympathizes with us. With Si Se Puede, all that was nice and pretty. But what did it do? He became the deporter in chief and allowed the refunding of ICE. And anybody that would have replaced him, doesn't matter who it would have been, whether it was Trump or Biden, was going to continue the same funding that's taking place today. So this is not new, but it's relevant to recent times, because a lot of our young people today, Gen Z, for example, a lot of them weren't even born when 9/11 occurred, when ICE was taking off, when Barack Obama was president. So we are at war with each other. But what I want Raza to know is that we got to stay strong, and we got to wipe out those personalities, kick Donald Trump to the side and focus on the bigger picture if you can. That it's ignorance, trying to keep us stupid, right? Ignorant. Literally, I'm talking about, literally ignorant, by destroying the Department of Education, of all things, escalating the quote unquote Department of War. That is not new. That used to happen back in the early years of this country, and even before that, where they actually had a Department of War. That's what it used to be called under George Washington. And a lot of us who were brown or black or Asian women, those marginalized communities, we weren't allowed through the doors. We weren't allowed to be educated. Matter of fact, it was illegal for people to teach black slaves, for example, to read. That was actually a crime, because white America, that's rooted in white supremacy at the time, and even today, those roots of white supremacy are strong. They meant to keep us stupid, ignorant, and not knowing what's really was going on out there. So, for example, a lot of people have tried to come back at what I'm doing and say, go back to where you came from, get alive, blah, blah, blah. Little do they know, this is where I came from. Yeah, what we call Aztlan, California, Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, this whole Southwest, 7 states really that were stolen along with other territories. We've always been here. Our people have always been here. When I say I'm talking about Raza Mexicana, Chicana, indigenous people from South America. We've been migrating up and down this land for thousands of years. So when people say go back to where we came from, this is where I came from. This is where we came from, a lot of us. If anybody had to do some explaining, it'd be, the Europeans, the European immigrants who came here, who invaded here, who brought the diseases here, who divided and conquered us here, who enslaved us here, and who to this day has the nerve, some of these races, white Europeans, to tell us to go back where we came from. Yeah, this is where we came from. And, if we want to talk about land back and, deporting people, man, you're lucky we have a heart, because we know what land back means, and it really should be going back to the native people, even before Mexico. That's another story. I want people to understand the bigger story here is that, yes, we are at war. And now the question is, what side are you going to be on during this war? For a lot of you guys who are barely waking up, or some of you guys who lost hope after Obama and Biden or whatever, and you voted for Trump, where are we going to go from here? And again, the bigger picture, the bigger ideas here is not to focus on race, although race is a byproduct of capitalism, is to focus on the economic and political system that divides us, obviously. Why do you think, Trump became popular and people wanted to vote for him? Because they saw failure with the, Democratic Party, especially under, the Clintons and Obama, yes, and Biden too. But they saw failure, and many people were hoping that they'd be different, so they voted for the other guy. A clown, straight up a clown from television, because they were either desperate, they want to see things get better. A lot of them were uneducated and uninformed, so they thought things would get better. Other people voted for him because he's a racist, and they knew he was a racist, and those people are racist, so I'm not even going to, argue that. They're just straight up racist, but there was a whole group of people. Then there was others who were just wanted the money. So when we talk about, big ideas here, I want everybody to know that the reason we do focus on things like white supremacy on this channel, why we focus on things like history, it's because we got to know that history. Why we focus on economics, and why I really come down hard on capitalism, is because before capitalism existed, our people, all indigenous people around the world, practiced a thing called communalism. And communalism involves many theories today, including what we call socialism, and yes, even communism, because we were communists before, Karl Marx wrote a book on it. We practice sharing. We practice not exploiting our people. We practice, taking care of our elderly and all the kids. Those are things that some people will say, well, if you don't pull yourself up by the bootstrap, if you don't go to work, if you don't make that money, then you're going to fall behind. And that's a individualistic mindset where one thinks only of themselves. That's pretty selfish, actually. And I learned that a long time ago from my Chinese friends, who pointed out how collectivity and working collectively actually strengthens us. If all you do is think about yourself, then yeah, sure, you're selfish. You're a selfish person. You're a selfish individual with a selfish mindset. And truth is, the movement don't need you. We don't need you if that's how you're going to do it. If that's all you care about. We need people who are going to think about the greater picture, about everybody. And, why do you think that us brown berets out there aren't trying to, deport white people, aren't going after white people? We got more than enough reason, us in the Chicano movement, whether it be brown berets, whether it be, our allies, even the UFW people who work in the fields, we'd be coming at you too, but we're not that type of person, or we're not that type of community. We do have respect for people, and we know that it's much bigger than just race. And I go back to the topic of economics, why I talk so much about that in this channel, why I bring up world issues like what happened in Venezuela, what's going on in Africa, and yes, what's going on in Greenland too, because those are indigenous people that were there long before the Pilgrims, long before the Vikings, long before anybody else tried to claim them as their own. We have to think big picture here, because ultimately we want our younger generation to rise up, to unite. But that's not going to happen if they don't know the true history of, for example, North America and the United States of America and the world at large. They got to know that. So for all my gente out there, for other people out there, who don't know where to turn to, have questions, as to what's going on. The short answer to a lot of your questions was yes, we are at war. It's a civil war, but it's a worldwide war that's been going on forever. And it's just going to depend on what do you believe in. And for my religious folks out there, people who believe in God or Christian, Catholic, Muslim, even Judaism, or any other sect you belong to, the truth is we need you. I've been to Cuba many times, and some of the most outspoken revolutionary people who I met, some of the most organized, quiet, yet doing the work, quote unquote, God's work, right? For the people, were people of faith, people who were Christians, who were Catholic, Islamic, and of all religions, including the indigenous and the African religions, because people forget Cuba is a black country, an African nation, right? So for those of you who are of that background, religious faith, if that's what's driving you, I encourage you to stand up, question your so-called religious and spiritual leaders. What are they telling you? What are they actually doing? Because if they don't stand for the people, if they don't stand for the poor, if they don't stand for the quote-unquote immigrants, if they don't stand for the vulnerable, then who really do they stand for? Maybe themselves, maybe their church. And that's probably what they're trying to do, is keep that clout to remain in power. So question them, because the truth is some of the strongest, most fearless revolutionaries I've met were religious people. So with that said, I'm going to, end this live, because I wanted to send that message out to people that we are not, in small-minded state. We are fighting a larger war within a actual civil war in America, and something that's been going on for a while now. But for our Gen Z and younger people who don't understand what's happening, Minnesota represents what's going on within the country as a civil war. Los Angeles, that was a show of force where we knew they were gonna escalate, and now we're seeing white people being shot on the streets in Minneapolis too so far. But we've been shot for a long time. I always say that, right? They're going to do that to white people. What are they going to do to us, to black and brown people, for example, Asian people? So I encourage everybody to stay on the right side of history. I encourage our religious people to question, your leaders. And if you truly stand for good, stand on the side of the most oppressed. And I encourage people to, pick up a book and study economics, study why capitalism is a failing system, and why capitalism is so dangerous to us, and study why the brown berets today, for example, I don't speak for every brown beret, but I'll tell you this, we know this, that, capitalism was not the answer. And we were hostile, to quote my sister Lala, we were hostile, a lot of us in the Chicano movement during the 60s, to people of socialist backgrounds or international or even communist backgrounds. We won't do that no more, because we know where we come from. And long before Karl Marx, we were the socialist governments, running, traditional economies. So pick up a book, study your history, know what's really out there. And if you choose to stay ignorant, I can't do nothing for you. We got to keep moving. We can't wait for you. There's people to be, to be attended to. There's people to be served. There's organizing to be done. And we are going to stand for the people. So with that, I just want to say, que viva la raza, all power to the people, everybody, and ho.
For more from Maestro Avitia, visit his YouTube page by searching Maestro Avitia, Avitia.
Welcome to Tengo un Cuento, because we all have a story to tell. I'm not talking chisme. I'm talking about the stories that saved somebody, the lessons your tia passed down so you wouldn't have to learn the hard way, the ones that make the whole family lose it at the dinner table. These are the stories that heal us, that honor us, that remind us of who we are. I'm your host, Shista Garcilaso, and this is Tengo un Cuento. Today, we have the honor of welcoming someone who has spent her life in service to our community, Olga M. Martinez, Accepted to Stanford and UC Santa Barbara, Olga chose UC Santa Cruz, where she earned her bachelor's degree in creative arts in 1973. While there, Olga and her professor Eduardo Carrillo, the legendary Chicano muralist, and their classmates painted a mural that still stands on campus today. A proud Mecha member at Foothill College and UC Santa Cruz, Olga went on to earn her master's in special education with bilingual emphasis, earning credentials to teach students who learn differently, including those with auditory, visual, or behavioral deficits, autistic students, those with developmental delays, and physical and mental disabilities. Olga dedicated 40 years to students who needed someone in their corner, training as a writing consultant at Fresno State, advising Mecha at Fresno High School for nearly 2 decades, advising Californians for Justice, and creating a college orientation program at Fresno City College for special education students transitioning out of high school. Olga raised 2 children on her own, and both went on to college. From Arte Americas and the Mexican American Political Association to the Chicano Youth Center, Trabajadores de la Raza, and Chicano Alumni Association, the Chicano Breakfast Club, and La Raza Unida Party, Olga has never stopped showing up. Olga has never stopped showing up. A life member of California Teachers Association and National Education Association, a proud member of Fresno Teachers Association, and a past member of Association of Mexican American Educators. In the early 1970s, while Olga was finding her path at UC Santa Cruz, the city was living through a nightmare. Multiple serial killers stalked the area between 1970 and 1973, earning it the nickname the murder capital of the world. Young women, many of them college students, were among the victims, and yet in the middle of that darkness, a young Chicana kept building. Today, Olga brings us something personal, words she wrote herself, straight from her own experience. We are honored to have her here. Please welcome Olga M. Martinez.
Okay, folks, hi. My name is Olga Martinez, and Le Peste los Calcetines, sometimes. Okay, I'm going to tell you a little story. And right now I'm just calling it the Falcon. Anyway, Elena and I met in 1971 in the cafeteria at Merrill College on the campus of the UC Santa Cruz. We have been friends ever since, although now that we are both in our 70s, we don't visit each other as much as we used to. So I was staying in the dorms when I first transferred to UC from Foothill College. And I had decided to go have some lunch in the Commons. I always did this. I always do 2 things or 3 things at the same time. That's my usual MO. So I was looking for a place to live because I didn't like the dorms. And also looking for a female model before one of my drawing classes. So I saw this girl as I walked into the Commons, and I was immediately struck by her beauty. She was sitting alone and eating her lunch. And she had long, shiny black hair, straight and fine. She had high cheekbones with a strong yet delicate jawline. Her skin appeared to be very smooth. And the color I can describe as being sort of like the color of the Southwest. You know, those browns, sandy browns. She had a sensitive look to her face, and her almond-shaped eyes, her brown almond-shaped eyes, looked up at me as I stood in front of her. I sat down clumsily and did a high-pitched hi. I did not wait for a response. I told her about my art drawing class, that I was looking for models to pose for us, and that we would pay, of course, for her work. She seemed at a loss for words, but her expression of eagerness changed quickly to suspicion. I think I read her thoughts. Is this just another Santa Cruz crazy? I introduced myself, and she responded with her name, too. And I asked her how she happened to be at Merrill. And then we shared a little bit about ourselves. Elena was a transfer student at a Monterey Peninsula College, and I had transferred from Foothill. We also found out that we had been chairs of the Mecha student group in our colleges. Mecha stands for Estudiantil Chicano de Aztlán. I had been the first Chicana president at Foothill, and she had been at MPC. Aztlán is the place the Mexica people first settled. It is located in the southwest part of the United States. Our student group stood for self-determination as well as supporting our communities. Elena was born in Warland, Wyoming, and had left home after high school graduation. She went to live with her aunt in Sacramento, California. And I had a similar post-high school experience, except that I did not have a favorite aunt. I was born in San Antonio, Texas, and we migrated to Califas when I was 10 years old. As soon as I graduated, I went to work. In terms of jobs, I started to work in the tomato fields at 12 years old, and then they kicked me out because I was too young. Then every summer, we would all go to pick grapes. Those grapes became raisins by the end of the summer. Then I was a nanny, a telemarketer, a postal clerk, a psychiatric nursing assistant for the VA, and then I began my college education. That first year at UC was full of optimism and political activism. We were cultural and social activists. We invited guests like Cesar Chavez and Cheech and Chong. We also did fundraisers too and got involved with other colleges. One day in the fall quarter, we planned and executed a dance. Elena and I were in charge of collecting the dance receipts and cash, counting up the money and placing it in a locked cash box, and then we placed that box in the professor's office. He was our sponsor. By the time we finished cleaning and counting, it probably was almost 2. We had decided that after the dance, we would drive up to San Francisco to see our friends, Joel and David. All 4 of us were Huelga supporters and participated in rallies and boycotts with the United Farm Workers Union, which was very prevalent at that time. It was the grapes and then also boycotting Safeway. So when we got into Elena's blue Fiat, we were tired. The dance had been a success, but we were happy to end the event. We sped out towards San Francisco, hoping we would outrun the thickening fog. We were driving along and talking about nothing in particular, and I began to doze off in my front seat. Then suddenly Elena hits my arms. She yells, "Olga, wake up! There's somebody trying to hit us from behind!" And I was still sleepy, but scared by the urgency in her voice. Elena was clutching the steering wheel, and because her body was so tense, she appeared larger in the small bucket seat of the car. Elena kept talking while I tried to peer through the back window into pitch darkness. I could not detect any kind of form in the vehicle behind us. Tense. Very tense. She continued. A car comes up, and he comes up real close behind me and then suddenly brakes. And then he's done that twice already. Elena continues driving her little Fiat and even speeding up more. Then nothing for a while. I said, "Don't worry, he has probably turned off." I began to settle down when suddenly we see the car right behind us with his brights glaring. Then he's beside us on the right side. Then Elena is yelling to me, "What do I do? What do I do? He's going to hit us. He's trying to hit us." And then he veers to the left and we veer also. And I find my voice and I say, go around, we can't stop." She maneuvers around it and steps on it, full throttle. Her little car suddenly feels like a flying tank. It cranks up a hill with smoke spewing out of it into us, our faces. All I could think of was the recent kidnappings around the Santa Cruz community. There had been helicopters up by the university, and many were staying in their homes out of fear. When the car, a white Ford Falcon, had come close to us, I had seen 2 or 3 shadowy figures in the back, in the dark. Elena was flying, and I was praying, hoping that we wouldn't crash. We drove like this for what seemed like a long time, and I kept looking back and then couldn't see any headlights or the form of a car at all. It seemed as though we were both in the same bad dream. We were past Half Moon Bay when we saw a highway patrolman cleaning up after an earlier accident. Elena asked me if we should stop. I yelled, "Yes, yes." We parked by the side of the road in front of his car, and I jumped out and ran back to the CHP. Elena followed, and I began to tell him what had happened, and he asked me a few questions, and Elena came up and continued hurriedly telling him about the weirdos in the white car. We were obviously shaken, and he looked down at us, and then he said, "You don't have to worry now. I will protect you. You can just continue on your way." Elena and I just looked at each other, communicating through our same thought wave. Wow, he sounds like a chauvinist pig. When we were back in the car, we just laughed, and perhaps that released our mutual tension. We had nothing to fear. Our protector was there for us. We calmed down about the near mishap and talked about the description of the car and the figures in it. We kept thinking and talking about it. Was there something we had missed? Then we got into the why. There were questions like, maybe they thought we had money. Maybe they had been waiting for us. And what if they were the kidnappers or the killers everyone was talking about? We arrived in San Francisco finally and went straight to David's brownstone, and he met us at the door. After we were sipping some beer, we started recounting our drive to the city, and Joel just looked at us and asked how much we had to drink or smoke. We laughed. Elena was feeling like maybe they didn't believe us, but then we got more agitated. Joel began to see that we were serious, but to add more mystery to the bizarre night, he remarked that in the book, Journey to Ixtlan by Carlos Castaneda, the brujo, or Don Juan, had said that the image of death is a white falcon, or hawk, following you. We all looked at him, and Elena's eyes grew wider as we remembered. But hadn't Castaneda admitted that Don Juan the brujo, the wise man, had visions that were induced by the drug peyote? No, this had been real, and we were not drinking or using drugs. Then Joel, in a low voice, said, yes, but what if it was death following you? And he trails off. Then David came over behind Elena and put his hands on her shoulders and said, well, don't worry, because you're safe with us. Elena and I looked at each other, remembering the CHP's words. We again thought the same thing. Yeah, we were relatively safe now, but only because of the fast thinking, the fast actions of two young Chicanas. The end. Well, death is always following us, isn't it? Nothing to be afraid of.
Olga, thank you for trusting us with your story. And you know, it's beautiful. She told us that sharing this story moved her to reconnect with her friend Elena. And now they're back in touch. To everyone listening, you are not just an audience, you are witnesses. It is an honor to receive these stories, because tengo un cuento, we all have a story to tell. Hasta la próxima.
And now, Aztlan Weekly presenta Palabra.
Piali Masawalime, Piali no One. I mean, hello, my indigenous people. Hello, my friends in Huasteca, Berrien, Nahuatl. I wrote another poem. This one is dedicated to myself, and it's called Chicana Movement. Before I go ahead and start, my alarm keeps beeping, so yeah, I haven't changed the batteries before you guys start talking shit. Ya les dije. But yeah, here it goes. Julieta Cruz, here to stay. Dance Azteca, feather sway. Half Tequesha, half Kashka native, my blood runs deep. And the earth where my people fought in sleep. With copal in my hands, I stay grounded and whole. Their spirits with me, guiding my soul. Under the sun, drums beat strong. Ancestors with me, where I belong. Tatuajes on my skin, my story, mi vida. Every mark of fight, every scar, una herida. Judged by the world, I never break. Each step I take por mi gente's sake. Not what words flow from my soul. A voice from my people making me whole. Chicana studies my passion, my fight. Learning mi historia, taking back our right. Full-time in school, still I stand. Trabajo in classes, dreams in hand. Straight from mis padres, their love, my guide. For mi raza, mi gente, for those yet to come. I beat the drum loud, para todos for some. Almost at the finish line with my degree in hand. A Chicana who's walked alone, but still I stand. Part of who I am, of where I'm from. A warrior, a daughter, a story that's just begun. This journey's for my raza, for the generations to come. For the dreams of my people who rise as one. I honor my roots, my blood, my name. Bumping rolas, I hate each one of my veins. They call me Chicana Movement for a reason. Julieta Cruz, a voice, a force, not just a season. I stand with my people, proud and true. And this movement's in me and I'll carry it through.
That's our hermana Julieta. For more from her, visit her Instagram page searching Chicana Movement.
And now, Aztlán Weekly presenta Hablas Nahuatl, featuring Paquilistli.
How to count 1 through 20 in Nahuatl. Se, Ome, Eyi, Nawi, Maquili, Chicuase, Chicome, Chicueyi, Chicnawi, Mahtlactli, Mahtlactli Wanse, Mahtlactli Wanome, Mahtlactli Waneyi, Mahtlactli Wanawi, Caxtoli, Caxtoli Wanse, Caxtoli Wanome, Caxtoli Waneyi, Caxtoli Wanawi, Sempowali, Sempowali. Now you know how to count 1 through 20 in Nahuatl.
That was our hermano, Paquilistli. For more info from him, search Paquilistli on Instagram. You can also find him on YouTube by searching the same name. And now, Aztlán Weekly presenta Pa Que Sepan.
Yes, ritual killing existed in Mesoamerica. Surprise, our ancestors were human beings. No serious scholar denies the existence of these killings. But what most people think they know, quote unquote, about Mexica Aztec sacrifice is colonial propaganda. Weaponized storytelling and sensationalist nonsense repeated for over 500 years in order to demonize indigenous people and justify everything done to them in the name of Christianity. I mean, let's face it, sacrifice is a loaded word, and the settler colonialist machine loves to trot it out front and center whenever talking about our Mesoamerican ancestors, as if this were the single defining characteristic of our cultural inheritance. But the word sacrifice falls short when it comes to Mesoamerican worldviews. As David Carrasco and other leading scholars have pointed out, payment and reciprocity are far more accurate ways to describe these ancestral worldviews, which were built on a social system of giving back. In Nahuatl, this is known as Nextlahualistli, or paying the debt. The universe gives you life, breath, rain, maize, sunlight, and existence itself. You, therefore, owe something in return. It was a sacred obligation of cosmic maintenance meant to keep the world in motion. You didn't whine about it. You fulfilled your duty. So let's ditch the sacrifice talk and start using words that better describe the philosophical worldview that undergirded these sacred acts of ritual killing. Let's use the words our ancestors used. Words like Nextlahualistli, debt payment, or Teomiki, a sacred death. It's no accident that colonial narratives ignore the fact that the vast majority of ritual offerings were not human beings. In fact, the most common offerings were the same things that humans offer everywhere to things that they consider sacred. Things like flowers, precious stones, pottery, incense, food, music, and dance. At the Templo Mayor alone, archaeologists have uncovered thousands of such offerings. And if ancient Mexicans were supposedly obsessed with slaughter, explain the literal mountains of flowers, ritual objects, and other ceremonial gifts in lieu of human bodies.
Shout out to Curly Tlapoyawa. Also, if you'd like to hear more from Curly, he and Ruben Tlacatecat co-host the podcast Tales from Atlantis. You can find the show wherever podcasts are available and on social media by searching Tales from Atlantis.
And now, shout outs.
We also like to make another special shout out to Hennessy Pedro Parker, desde Houston, Texas, for providing his firme music and beats through the program. If you'd like to hear more from him, visit soundcloud.com/Hennessy Pedro Parker.
And once again, our camarada Veronica Aliel would like to give a shout out to all Raza who are in any way contributing to building locally in their communities. And then invite to join El Partido Nacional de la Raza Unida to build national political power. If interested, visit razaunidaparty.org. That's razaunidaparty.org. And finally, Aztlan Weekly would like to hear from you, Raza. If you reside anywhere in Aztlan and would like to share newsworthy events with us, or if you would like to make a special shout out to family, friends, y queridos, or an organization serving our community, or if you would like to share your thoughts, cáiganle. Shoot us an email at news@aztlanweekly.com, or you can visit our website at aztlanweekly.com.
You can also find us on social media. Search Aztlan Weekly and click follow, subscribe, like, or share.
Thanks for listening, Raza. Hasta luego.
Gracias.
Que viva la raza y que viva Aztlan libre. Es todo.
Minutes, Coordinated Universal Time.